And now, the host of Quirks of Israel, Reverend Peter Fast.
Hello, everyone. Good to see you. Thank you for coming today. Episode 11. We've made it 50%, halfway through. Welcome, everyone. Good to see you again, too. All right. There we go. Welcome to episode 11 of the Quirks of Israel. All right. Today's episode is called Funny Experiences in Jordan, Part 3, Petra and the Great Flood. Now, Jordan is a lovely country. It is a Muslim Arab country that borders on Israel's eastern side, or the east bank of the Jordan River. Since 1994, Jordan has shared a peace treaty with Israel. Israel's had both a rocky history with Jordan and some sunny days, although the relationship still swings between rocky and sunny, but that history is for a completely different program, not here at the Quirks of Israel show. Jordan has seen civilizations come and go, such as the Edomites, the Nabateans, the Persians, the Romans, the Byzantines, the Umayyad, the Abbasid Islamic Caliphates, and the Ottoman Turks, right to the British and the creation of Transjordan, severed in 1921 from the British Mandate of Palestine and the earlier promise of the 1917 Balfour Declaration, which included the entire land of modern-day Israel and Jordan to be given as a Jewish homeland. Abdullah I, the son of the Hashemite Grand Sharif of Mecca, became the first king of the Emirate of Transjordan. Later, the country would simply become known as Jordan. Jordan is a country filled with beauty and ancient history like Israel. It is the home of the port city of Aqaba, with palaces of King Hussein of Jordan, as well as the large city of Amman, with more palaces of King Hussein of Jordan. Jordan is home to its beautiful coastline of the Dead Sea, the wilderness of Wadi Rum, which is lovely to hike, the mysterious ancient mountain city of Petra, where the Holy Grail is hidden, and the legendary and famous archaeologist Indiana Jones still lurks around, and the breathtaking Crusader castle of Kerak. But Jordan's largest and most famous tourist attraction, hands down, is Petra. And they know it, which is why they charge you an arm and a leg to cross over the border between Israel and Jordan, because they know many tourists and groups only want to hop over for a day or two in Petra, and many of them will never make it to Amman or other places. Like a fly attracted to the blue light of a fly trap, tourists want to charge into Petra and see this incredible wonder. So the Jordanian border authorities came up with a clever plan. Come to Jordan for a day, sure, but we'll charge you for it. Come to Jordan for more than 2 days, we'll give you a discount. So that is one of the tricks that convinced me to stay many days at a time in Jordan on 2 separate visits. That and the incredible history and sights. But it is the first tale I wish to tell of my visit to Jordan in 2004, the year of the Great Flood. No, I'm not talking about the Genesis 6 to 8 flood account, but a different deluge, a flash flood. In November 2004, I convinced 2 friends of mine who were volunteers at Bridges for Peace to go to Jordan with me. The first friend was a lovely chap from Scotland named Stephen, and the second friend was a giant of a man from Australia named Adrian. And despite his menacing size, built like an entire rugby team combined, he was a warm-hearted, gentle person. These 2 chaps were my flatmates, and we had planned our excursion to Jordan to the detail. We caught an Egged bus to Eilat on the Red Sea, the bus driver dressed like an eccentric cowboy, and from Eilat we took a taxi to the Israel-Jordan border. We crossed on foot, met a lovely taxi driver named Mohammed who, as an esteemed gentleman and self-promoted tour guide, treated us to a tour of Aqaba, the King's Highway, and straight to Petra. The entire 4-hour drive, Mohammed tried to convince us to stay in his cousin's hotel, the Valentine Hotel, which sounded a bit sketchy to me. And also it didn't work because as an organized person, I had already made a booking. Mohammed begrudgingly dropped us off at our hotel, gave us his card as he made one more desperate attempt to sell us on the Valentine Hotel. and then he departed. One step into our hotel, we were met by a bone-chilling, cold feeling. It wasn't haunted. I'm talking about there was no heat turned on in the entire building. We could see our breath in the air. I promptly implored the hotel manager to turn on the heat, which he explained to me he didn't do that until December, to which I requested a refund. Our sudden decision to cancel our stay put the entire hotel staff at odds with us as they grimaced and sent sour faces our way. Fearing the worst, I phoned Mohammed and informed him that after all, we would welcome a stay at the Valentine Hotel with his cousin. It seemed like an eternity for Mohammed to come and rescue us from the hostile, silent looks of death we were given by the hotel staff. But like a knight to the rescue, Mohammed arrived, packed his taxi with our bags and ourselves, and drove us to the Valentine Hotel, promising the cattle on 1,000 hills. The Valentine Hotel turned out actually just to be a backpacker's paradise and was actually a decent place. Everyone was so friendly to us, it was as if we had won the lottery. The next morning, we descended into the beauty of Petra. We were awed by the towering cliffs of beautiful stone. We were mystified by the ancient buildings and ruins. We had to pick our jaws off the ground when we saw the treasury of the Pharaoh. And for a split hot second, I wondered if we would indeed find the Grail. Just kidding, hey? But Petra's amazing. Okay. After hours of hiking and climbing on whatever we could find, our stomachs notified us of our hunger. We crossed over a bridge with a dry wadi or riverbed beneath it and sauntered into a building that contained a restaurant. Now let's back up, okay? As we were nearing the restaurant, we could see that the sky had suddenly turned ash gray and low-moving clouds were engulfing whole mountains and cliffs that would disappear within seconds. I remember Adrian the giant saying, "Oh, it might rain." Now these words will go down in infamy. Okay, we ate in the restaurant, and 45 minutes later, we're standing inside the restaurant's porch, gazing out at a monsoon like torrential downpour. It looked like something out of an apocalypse film, the great day of the Lord, the great tribulation. I looked at Adrian and Stephen and nervously chuckled. A little rain, right? We stupidly purchased umbrellas. We stepped outside, opened them up, and the things were reduced to mangled, torn fabric and bent aluminum. Grumbling, we tossed them in a rubbish bin and continued with confidence that we wouldn't let this spoil our day. So we journeyed into the fray, getting completely drenched and pretty much walking at a 45-degree angle. Now, just a moment. If we pause to reflect and kind of psychoanalyze the situation, I have no idea what on earth we were thinking. It made no sense. We were drenched almost immediately upon stepping out. And then I have no idea if we had any idea of where we were going. I recall trying to climb up to higher ground, but that certainly didn't work for the people outside of the ark during Noah's day. But back to our story. We climbed higher in the pouring rain, cats and dogs I'm talking about, and we had almost cleared a high ridge when we heard a scream. We looked down and saw a single woman trapped on a sandbar with a river of water flowing on either side. Damsel in distress, 100%. Remember the bridge we crossed over, the dry riverbed to get into the restaurant? Underwater, completely submerged, with brown rushing water that resembled rapids. But we were a couple of young idiots in our 20s and thought, hey, let's go for it. We carefully climbed down the ridge, rescued the woman, who was really just standing on a sandbar with a foot of water rushing up on either side, but whatever. And then at the behest of some Petra National Park employees, we were rushed to a high plateau where hundreds of tourists were waiting to be evacuated by the Jordanian Army. There are many other details I can't fill you in on, but essentially, this would be too long. Essentially, a convoy of trucks and vehicles of different sizes approached the huddled mob of cold, wet humanity. Stephen and I had the privilege of getting selected for the lead truck driven by 2 Jordanian soldiers. Adrian and the girl we rescued were assigned the second vehicle. I remember Adrian's nervous expression he gave me, worried and not comfortable with being separated from us. But hey, he actually got to be with the girl we rescued, and she was Australian as well. Once everybody was on board, we set off. Now let me quickly explain the interior of the truck, because this is important. This is vital. This vehicle was a military truck that had been modified. It had a covered box and a kind of a U-shaped bench inside where a dozen other tourists were crammed into. I was wedged in between the cab of the truck, which separated the two soldiers by a metal screen, and Stephen, who sat on the bench beside me. So essentially, I was cramped and kneeling on the floor in a very narrow space, pressed up against a metal screen that separated the soldiers on my left side and Stephen and a dozen tourists on my right. The rescue effort was going according to someone's plans until we halted before a completely washed out road with a surging, mud-stained river rushing by at incredible speed. In the middle of this flash flood was a partially submerged vehicle, completely stuck and trapped. Not knowing Arabic, it didn't take a genius to figure out what the two soldiers driving our vehicle were devising. They wanted to go for it, and the two Einsteins wanted to drive on the right-hand side of the submerged vehicle, which was the lower side of the road and probably the cause of their disaster of getting stuck in the first place. I rattled the cage with my cold, dead fingers, and getting their attention, told the soldiers they should not drive on the right side of the stuck vehicle. The soldiers gave me annoyed looks, told me to be quiet, and continued to talk over the radio and point to the right side of the submerged vehicle before them. But my life and the lives of everyone in the vehicle being on the line, I felt it incumbent upon me as self-elected chief of the truck and leader of the convoy to appeal to the soldiers and convince them to abandon the folly of their stupid plan. With another cage rattle and shout from me, the soldiers called me an idiot and reminded me, with their looks, to take notice of the weapons in their hands. Now, they didn't actually threaten me, but I saw their guns and the looks in their eyes said, "Let's shoot the Canadian." Another cage rattle and another "shut up, you idiot" directed my way made me realize the hopeless nature of victory. With a revving of the engine, the truck lurched forward and we plunged into the mighty river. It took less than a minute to get stuck, and as I raged and proclaimed to the heavens that I was right, and as everyone in the vehicle started shouting and screaming, and as the soldiers berated me with verbal abuse, two things, very ironic, happened. The first, the originally stuck vehicle, was dislodged. Maybe from the idiot attempts of the soldiers in our truck who kept spinning the tires. And the second ironic thing was that the rest of the convoy made it through. But not before I saw the sad, terrified, hopeless face of Hadrian pressed up against the window of his vehicle, staring at us as he went by, almost with a look that said, "See you in heaven, lads." Now, to save time, let's wrap this up, okay? Let's wrap this up. We don't want to be here forever, okay? The actual rescue effort took a half track with a dozen soldiers, a donkey's rope, and a vengeful soldier who let me fall into the river and nearly drown before saving me and carrying me to the dry bank of the rushing water. Funny thing is, they also let Stephen fall into the river as well, both of us, after promising to carry us, but to note, they carried everyone else across the river. Stephen and I were the only ones who fell in. A Jordanian conspiracy? I think so. Cold, wet, hungry, grumpy, and a little overjoyed we weren't dead. We got into another vehicle who drove us to the park entrance, and after the driver tried to exploit us for money, which I refused to pay, we trudged back to the Valentine Hotel, where we found Adrian sitting alone in our hotel room, in the dark, with tears in his eyes and a massive smile on his face when we popped in. And he said, "I thought I would never see you again." God bless Adrian. Hey, God bless Adrian. And God bless the Hashemite Kingdom of Jordan. Boy, Jordan is quirky. Join me on episode 12 of the Quirks of Israel for a special bonus and backstage glimpse of Bridges for Peace. I invite you to watch next week as I bring to you, drum roll, Funny Experiences in Israel, Part 4, Bridges for Peace, Home Repair. Cheers and shalom.